Hey, what's happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. In today's video, we're going to be talking about real estate and the housing market, and we're going to be taking a look at one Redditor's tale of regret. They fell victim to FOMO, and they are paying the price. I would love to hear your guys' take on the housing market. What is the housing market like in your city? Are you in the market to buy a home? Would you like to buy a home, but you've decided that you have to sit on the sidelines for a while because things are too crazy right now? Have you been priced out of your market? Would love to hear kind of what's going on in your lives and what you guys are noticing in your markets. Obviously, FOMO is fear of missing out, and it's not unique to the real estate industry. People experience FOMO in the stock market. People experience real estate in the crypto markets, and with Bitcoin, how many people were buying Bitcoin at $60,000, $62,000, even at the all-time high of $65,000? I have to get in now. Bitcoin's going to go to $100,000. Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million, and I don't want to miss out. And a lot of people are experiencing that with the housing market as well. Just a couple of my own kind of like personal anecdotes, I should say, before we kind of get into the story. Probably like 7, 8 years ago, my parents moved from Chicago down to Charleston, South Carolina. And at the time, I was planning on buying a condo or buying a townhouse to rent to them while they were down there. They were planning on being down there for like 5 to 7 years. Didn't wind up doing it. I wound up going down there and visiting a lot. And I actually really love the city. I was actually considering moving down to Charleston myself. Their state actually has very good business laws for the business that I was in at the time. And I was seriously considering it. I never pulled the trigger. And I mean, in the 5 or 7 years that has passed, I mean, I've seen houses, double, triple, even quadruple in price, almost to the point where I'm basically priced out of that market, at least to the areas that I would like to be in down there. And I definitely missed out on that one for probably the past, I don't know, year and a half, maybe even 2 years. I've been house shopping down in Florida. I'm kind of looking in like the Tampa/St. Pete market. Although things have gotten so competitive down there that I've had to kind of expand the area that I'm looking at. Now I'm looking at Clearwater, Safety Harbor, even as far down as Sarasota and as far as up north as like Tarpon Springs. I think in the past year or two that I've been shopping, I wound up putting offers on maybe 2 or 3 places. Wound up getting beat out on both of them. And there's a lot more houses that I wanted to put offers on, but I mean, things are literally going under contract in a matter of a couple of hours. And what's really kind of crazy to see is, there's some houses, obviously a house goes under contract. Most houses close in 45 days, maybe 60 days. And I always keep them on my watch list because if something falls through, I want a second shot at it. And one thing that's really kind of blowing my mind, I'll see a house go under contract 30 days, 45 days later. Let's say the house goes under contract for $300,000. 30 days later, 45 days later, 60 days later, that deal winds up falling through and they go to relist it. That house that just 30 days ago, 60 days ago was listed for $300,000, they'll try to squeeze out like $350,000 because the market has improved that much more just in the 30 days or 45 days that have passed. I'm actually supposed to be is it called closing when you're the seller? I have a house that's under contract that we're supposed to close towards the end of the month. We'll see if it actually winds up going through. When I was pricing my house, I basically wound up initially pricing it about 30 grand over what I thought was like reasonable or fair or I would expect to get for it, just because it's that kind of market, right? Like you never know if somebody's going to throw out some crazy offer just because there's literally no inventory out there. My house, there really wasn't a comparable to my house. It was like the only one in the area that I was in at a similar price point. Housing market is insane. A lot of people are saying things are starting to cool off. I don't know if I would agree with that. I can see how maybe it's cooling off a little bit I keep a lot of things on my Zillow watch list. And I have noticed a lot of price drops, whereas before I wasn't seeing any price drops at all. But I am seeing price drops, 10 grand drop, 25 grand drop. I've even seen some $50,000 drops. I don't know if I would call it cooling off so much as I see it as people, figure they'll take a shot and list their house for some ridiculous amount of money. And, if they don't get the offer, they'll let it sit out there for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And if they don't get an offer, they'll wind up dropping the price a little bit. I have even seen some houses where people will buy a house do no improvements whatsoever, and then try to list it, a month later for 50 grand more than they bought it for. Things really are pretty crazy out there. And again, as always, I like hearing from you guys. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what's your take on the housing market. What are things like in your market? Do you think this will continue? Do you think things will kind of level off? I mean, to some point, houses can't continue to appreciate more and more and more, because at some point, either lenders aren't going to lend anymore, or people are just going to get kind of priced out, because at some point wages are not rising nearly as fast as home prices. And you can only see 20% increases, 25% increases every 6 months or every year before there's nobody left that can afford a house. But in this story from Zero Hedge, they talk about a Redditor who, and I thought this is also why this story is interesting. So in the story from yesterday, we talked about how Google and several other companies are either making employees return back to the office or slashing their pay as much as 25% if they don't return to the office. And in the instance of this Redditor, during lockdowns, they wound up buying a house outside of Toronto thinking that work from home was going to last forever. And now they're finding out that their employers want them back in the office. So they bought this home, moved into this home. Now they wind up finding out that they're either going to have a really long commute, or they're going to have to sell this house. And this couple seems shocked that they're not going to be able to, if not turn a profit, at least break even. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they're not able to at the very least break even. Obviously, realtor fees and the costs associated with buying and selling a house aren't cheap, but as crazy as things are right now, I'm actually kind of surprised that they couldn't get out even, or at least at a small loss. But let's hop into this one. This one comes to us from Zero Hedge, and it's titled, "One Redditor's Tale of Regret Exposes Homebuyers Suddenly Paying the Price of FOMO." And I do feel bad for people who FOMO'd in. I don't see them as stupid. I don't see them as impatient. When I'm looking at things right now, I'm worried that if I don't buy something very soon, I'm going to wind up getting priced out of the, Tampa area market. And so I kind of find myself expanding my search area, willing to settle for a house that I probably wouldn't have settled for a year ago, because I just don't want to get priced out of that area. So I kind of feel for this couple, but the article starts off, "Here is the lament by a self-admitted FOMO buyer in Canada. The couple mistakenly thinking that working from home, WAH, was permanent, had bought a house for that reason hours away from Toronto 6 months ago. But turns out work from home was transitory for them, and now they need to sell the house." Obviously, the transitory thing is kind of a joke or a stab at the whole idea that inflation is transitory and not here to stay. But in the 2 weeks that the home has been on the market, they didn't get offers that would allow them to make a profit or even break even, as the market is cooling off. A horrifying, blood-curdling, stupendously surprising situation of having to sell a house without being able to make an instant profit. And they can't even rent out the house profitably in their estimates. What kind of horror show is this? I'm actually kind of surprised that they can at least rent it out and break even. Although, would you even want to rent a house in this market when I'm not sure if Canada's done the eviction moratoriums in the same way or worse than the US has, but that's kind of why I'm getting out of the landlord business, is because who wants to own private property when the government can essentially seize your private property, use it for charity, and not give you any money? This is the horror of having bought a house in what has been identified as the #2 housing bubble in the world, behind New Zealand, and now this housing bubble is normalizing or cooling off or whatever, and suddenly the plans go kaput. Obviously, the couple can sell the house, but they'll have to price it where the market is, and the market isn't where they thought it would be or where it was 6 months ago. They'll have to try harder and longer and cut the price, and eventually they'll be able to sell the house. But the dream of making $100,000 or whatever in 6 months on flipping a house hours away from Toronto have evaporated. The post was brought to my attention by Steve Soretsky, a realtor in Vancouver, whose work reports and data have appeared on Wolf Street. Also noted the post's terse marital nuances that come with a situation like this. "She's livid about the situation and refuses to live here now," he says. "Sorry if this is horribly formatted. I'm not a Redditor. My wife and I bought 6 months ago at the height of the housing market, it seems now. We bought hours away from Toronto as we were both working from home. We thought WAH, or work from home, would be permanent, and we were both afraid of missing out on buying if we didn't pull the trigger. Wife is being called back to work full-time. I've been given notice that we're going back part-time come September. We listed our house a little bit over 2 weeks ago. No offer has come in that we break even on, let alone profit. Our realtor has told us that the market is cooling and that it would be a surprise if we got what we were asking. We've gotten a couple offers, none of which are asking price. We're at a loss. My wife is looking for work locally, but due to the nature of her work, she is unlikely to find equivalent pay or opportunity. She also doesn't want to leave her employer. She has great upward mobility and seniority there. I don't personally mind commuting part-time, but she's livid about the situation and refuses to live here now. My friend keeps telling me that there is no such thing as a Canadian market cooling and to just wait it out until it sells. If we listed for rent, I think we wouldn't be making a profit. Any suggestions would be appreciated. What's amazing to someone like me who has been around the block too many times is the naivete and surprise displayed in these eloquent words by the perplexed and frustrated home seller. What were they thinking when they bought the house? They were thinking they were governed by the fear of missing out, or FOMO, and the poster admitted it. FOMO stipulates that you can stop thinking, that you stop with that FOMO stipulates that you stop thinking and that you act without thinking, and act now before somebody else snaps up the overpriced house from under you. A housing bubble operates on that basis. You cannot maintain a housing bubble without FOMO. The post also lays bare the conundrum of buying a nice big house somewhere far away from the city because now you can work from home, both of you, and then the bosses say, both of them, no, you got to come back to the office. This stuff really sucks, and I suspect there's going to be a lot of it. And again, we covered the article from yesterday about how Google and several other companies are telling people they either have to come back to the office or they're going to take a 10, 15, 25% pay cut by not doing so. Let's see if we can actually check out this Reddit post. Okay, so here's the post. Let's see what some people say. Your biggest mistake is buying. Your second biggest mistake is panic selling. Buy high, sell low, the FOMO approach. This year I invested in pumpkins. They've been going up the whole month of October, and I got a feeling they're going to peak around January. Then bang, that's when I cash in. Homer J. Simpson. I don't think I saw that episode. Let's see. Bro, you aren't supposed to break even if you buy and sell a house with 0 upgrades within 6 months. You're supposed to lose 6% realtor fees, plus land transfer tax and lawyer's fees. And the fees to break the mortgage, which can be very, very high, although sometimes mortgages can be transferred rather than broken. We'd be able to better advise if you can mention all the figures like salary, price of house, mortgage rate, location, transit times. Otherwise, we're just shooting in the dark. Let's see here. Let's see. This is one incredibly courageous, shall we say, assumption to make. So yeah, unless your work told you that you guys would be able to work from home permanently, or this is a new policy, you're really going out on a limb or hoping that the pandemic would stretch on for quite a long time. Would renting be feasible even if you're not profiting? When comparing your options, don't forget to include closing costs as well as the difference in sales price. It may work out better to financially keep the house for now and rent it out, especially since we do not know what the housing market or new COVID variants will behave. The solution to one rash decision is always not a second rash decision. So it's great you are asking for opinions. Just remember that they are all opinions. Let's see here. Jesus, if it isn't bubble rhetoric, what the fuck? Let's see. I'd say OP's situation of literally buying a fucking house under the assumption they'd be working from home permanently is a bigger sign of a bubble / FOMO. Jesus Christ, imagine making that sort of decision without being certain. Let's see what else we got. We'll read a couple more and then we'll wrap it up. Observations of the last 30 years. I mean, the friend's not wrong if your time scale is years, not months. Problem is, OP's time scale is months. This is either a troll post or the first of many more to come. I think, sadly, it's the first of many more to come. Any scenario that allows PFC to circle jerk about how stupid everyone is compared to them is definitely real. Plus, OP has offered so very little information, they must generally want advice. Let's see. What are market rates? Why in the world would you make such a radical move without getting some certainty from your employers? On the off chance your employers called you back to the office, did you not have a contingency plan? You're going to have to take a loss now and pay for your rash decisions. So we'll wrap it up there. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts, your guys' experiences, what the housing market in your area is like. So drop a comment down below and tell us all about it. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button below, ding the bell, and we'll catch you on the next one.